think you should.
Welcome back to this week's episode of Whoscussion. We're on part B. We're covering the land of happy endings and finishing it off with how to win planets and influence people. The land of happy endings was done as a 40th anniversary of Doctor Who in comics. So it was printed in 2003. Well, that's amazing. That means that the year Doctor Who came out, they already had a comic book run.
Yes, they did.
Wow. How do you have an annual of something that hasn't been around for a year?
They called it an annual, and then they put it out the next year.
Oh, there we go. Oh, that's a good point. Okay, I respect that.
It's like they had there's another British magazine, comic strip that I used to read all the time. That like had an annual as well.
Beanie?
Beanie, yeah, the Beanie annual.
Yeah.
Like the first one of them, they were probably like, yeah, we're going to print these every year, so we'll do an annual.
Yeah. Oh, that reminds me, my sister actually has the complete run of 1970 to 1979 from 2000 AD.
Wow.
So I was like, wow, where did you even get these? And she was just like, I don't even remember now, but I've got them. I was like,
awesome.
Okay, that's awesome. I'm going to read this Judge Dredd.
Hell yeah.
And
Judge
Dan Deere, so it's just great. It's perpetually the 50s. But anyway, this because it's a 40th anniversary, we're taken back to the art style of the very first Doctor Who comic, where the Doctor was called Doctor Who.
Yes, he was.
The Doctor had a bag that was bigger on the inside. It had many gadgets, much like Felix the Cat. Since Felix had been around for 40 years by that point, they definitely got that idea from Felix the Cat.
Yes.
But who cares? Felix is a great character, and it was just an inspiration. They don't exactly rip it off. John and Gillian, the Doctor's grandchildren, join him for this adventure, which might have a lot of people scratching their heads, because Susan was the Doctor's granddaughter. Now, John and Gillian have been a Doctor Who canon files nightmare.
Yes.
Because where would they fit? Where did their adventures happen? And so forth and so on. A lot of people have just thought that the TV comics run, which was the first and second Doctors, and I think the first little bit of the third Doctor as well, were part of this, and people just see it as they're their own separate universe.
Yeah, because it seems like that's the deal with what goes on in this comic story.
What goes on in this comic story does very much seem that way. John and Gillian I love because they're the archetypical grandchildren of the 60s. Their art style is so 60s. I'm a huge fan of comics before the Silver Age. Actually before the Bronze Age even. I just really like the design styles of older comics. The Golden Era comics are just that whole sort of, I suppose in a way, the Atomic Family look. The American propaganda look of the housewife with the just above her shoulder length hair, the sort of what they call it, the bob cut.
Yeah.
And the boy with the very clean shaven hair, and John and Gillian are just oozing with that sort of ideology, and I love that. I'm glad it doesn't exist anymore, but I just sort of love the sort of, I suppose in a way, the innocence of that era.
Yeah.
The use of pastel color for the pages is gorgeous, and it's just oozing with charisma and the period that it's supposed to be emulating. The dialogue is very of the era. The way that the Doctor handles the situation is very much like the era of those comics. The villains, I like the era of that comics, but everything's very inconsequential. Like, the children aren't really in danger. They've just sort of been taken by a person who's a bit of a grump.
Yeah.
Of course, TV comics didn't have the rights to the Daleks. The Daleks actually had their own comic book run. And we're given an origin story in that comic book run that contradicts the television origin.
Yeah.
And
Whoscussion, not canon.
Whoscussion, not canon. But they are good comics. If anybody can find a copy of those, they are amazing comics. And actually gave birth to one of my favorite spin-off characters who got made canon by Stephen Moffat. On-screen canon as well. The Doctor in this story looks very much like Hartnell with the Eighth Doctor's hair.
Yeah,
and that was on purpose. Because the TV comics run never really captured the likeness of the actors that well. There was sort of influences of the actor in it, but they sort of were their own characters, and I think that was done very much on purpose because they were their own worlds. You know, the Doctor wasn't travelling with his granddaughter Susan; he's travelling with his grandchildren John and Gillian.
Yeah.
John's very much the tough boy of the era, facing up to the bad guys. Ian. yeah, he is. He's the young Ian. I can imagine Ian being him when he was a young'un.
Yeah.
Which again, William Russell isn't a young'un, so BBC, if you want to chuck him in an episode, that'd be real great. Yeah. Just before he passes. Come on. It's real just shoving that in there. The Doctor fixes things by just having the right gadgets in his bag. What I love, though, is that the Doctor pulls out his everlasting matches.
Oh, yeah.
Which is actually a reference to something Charlie actually said during her run, where whenever they were caught in the dark, Charlie would ask the Doctor, where are his everlasting matches?
Yeah. And
that's so great when a reference like that just echoes throughout the entirety of prose within the expanded universe of something, where there's that running gag that actually comes to fruition and has a beautiful payoff. That payoff was amazing when they were like, I can't see anything, grandfather. Don't worry, as Doctor Who pulled out of his bag, his everlasting matches. And I was like, that is the payoff. The ultimate payoff for that running gag. For the Doctor to actually have his everlasting matches.
Oh yeah.
The Doctor saves Gillian, who had been kidnapped by a robot that was being controlled by this evil being that had turned his people into boring, sad people. He had stolen these entities that are actually responsible for giving dreams to the people of this planet. What's this planet called again? Dabordia. Oh my god, Dabordia. Yes. That's amazing. That's so 1960s. It's like how the particles of Krypton were called Kryptonite and Superman, and they still are to this day. It's just the silly naming conventions of those times, because again, it was a medium that was in its infancy. It was a medium that people would pour all their creativity into, and was unfortunately tarnished by some guy who said they were evil. Yes. And every parent in America believed it. I don't know how that happens, guys, but that did. But this story is it's just so much fun, in a very 60s way. Especially if you're a fan of comics. This is a dream to have this anniversary special echo the past in such a way. The ending, though, where it sort of is solidified that John and Gillian live in the Doctor's head.
Yeah. And
he visits them to get away from how much his life actually sucks.
It's really weird. I feel that, like, the idea is that, I mean, there's like two ideas there. There's the idea that they're like personifications of his childlike wonder and his wish that life was simpler, and his own actual children as well, I'm guessing. But there's also that idea that he's actually just tapping into another universe, as one where he exists like that. Yeah. Which is also
which is actually a possibility, as we know from his run with I feel terrible, from his run with Croton.
Yeah. Where it's very likely it's certain, and with the infinite number of universes that there is a universe that exists.
And the infinite number of multiverses as well.
Exactly. So it's a likelihood that this actually is a thing, but it's also like is that actually what's happening? Is he actually getting into that universe when he goes to sleep, or is he is he just imagining that as a way to deal with his life?
Yeah, and I mean, like either way, I love both of those ideas of what it could be, but just sort of especially the art style when they bring it back and the Doctor wakes up, and it's just like whenever he goes to sleep, he can go to a land full of happy endings.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's so good, like, just what a brilliant use of an anniversary because they actually respected the past. Funny that, right? It's funny how you do that. You respect the last however many years you're celebrating of something instead of the last 8. It's really funny how people do that.
It is really funny, especially when they call it that kind of anniversary.
Yeah,
they take on that number and they actually like go back that far. It's pretty great.
It's pretty great. It's pretty amazing. It's like, I want to celebrate. I mean, let's just hypothetically say the number 50 here, right? I want to celebrate 50 years of something. I'd probably celebrate all 50 of it. It's funny how the story does this.
Just 8 of those.
Just 8 of those.
Just 8.
8th Doctor, 8. I'll see how it works now. But this is, again, it's one of those stories that you can pick up as part of the Flood collection, but it's so good. Harry Skelly, what were your thoughts on this story?
It was really interesting. It was sort of a set off at the beginning when it was like, who are these characters?
Yeah, I knew that was going to happen. Like, wait, what?
Like, what? Who are these? But then I was just like, oh, these guys. Oh, right. So that was a bit weird. But then, I get into it, and then I'm like, oh, yeah, this is like solid, like, 60s, like, comic writing. It's pretty great. And then just, the idea behind, like, that the evil bad guy has just, like, taken away the dreamscape. It kind of reminded me of the story behind the underlying story with the creatures that have like lost their dreams, and the bad guy comes and takes them away, and then like force them into Metropolis sort of deal. Reminds me of that, but it also reminds me of the Girl in the Golden Compass. Not the Girl in the Golden Compass. Just the Golden Compass, not the movie, the books. Where they have like
the Northern Lights.
That's the Northern Lights, and the actual like the full sequence where, the demons, the animals that they have are actually like parts of their like natural like psyche sort of deal, where like they're physical parts of the kids and the people, and when they get separated from each other, they get like comatose, basically, where they just like can't function properly. And that's what this reminded me of, like when this evil guy come and take these things away, they became like incapable of feeling happy emotions and thoughts. So it had that feel to it, but I guess it's also kind of like a religious thing as well, which is what the Golden Compass was all about. So I guess there's that, but at the same time, it's also like, right. So it was good. I like the comics too. I like the comic. It was great, and I really wish that like it doesn't even have to be like a BBC or anybody sort of creation. Just somebody like goes and actually like spends the time on going off and like writing, like I guess in effectuality. Fan fiction, but actual just like goes and writes just a bunch of the multiverse of Doctor Who, because it's open, like you can do whatever you like.
I want adventures with the cat and duck versions of Izzy and the Doctor so bad.
Yes, just someone needs to just go and do that. Like I've got way too many things on my plate to do this.
Yes, you do. Yes,
but,
you do.
Once I reach immortality, I might think about it. But
immortality's a curse.
Yeah, this is the guy with 9 lives. Anyway, so that's the land of happy endings. I'm gonna go into my story, which is the short trip of the monk, I guess.
Yes, it so is.
It really is. It's superb. I really like the Rufus Hound monk. It is superb. This is called How to Win Planets and Influence People. It is technically a 4th Doctor short trip.
Very technically.
Very technically. I mean, he does appear in it, so it's not like, just casually. It's actually like he's there as the Fourth Doctor, so it kind of makes sense. But at the same time, it's like it's not really about him at all. It is about the monk, the meddling monk, having a bit of a hard time, basically. So he's come to do this conference, I guess, for this company called the Darkon Corporation, who are an evil interstellar corporation who are all about taking over planets and just doing bad things, basically. So he's come to talk to them, do a talk about synergy and all that sort of stuff, standard business. This gets played out really well, where it feels exactly like a one of those business conferences you have when it's
like a product launch.
Yeah, it feels exactly like one of those where someone talks to you about nothing, but manages to make it sound like something.
I really hope the meddling monk's wearing a turtleneck when he's giving this presentation. So weird.
He acts like he has to be bald and have the glasses and everything. There's an app for that. Anyway, he's talking about his I guess his life's work and being the meddling monk and taking over planets, being an ingenious little devious little Time Lord. So he's going through the slides talking about, particularly in one interest of his is the most is taking over or conquering Earth, because obviously every alien race in the universe is interested in conquering Earth because it has been probably the most hardest thing to conquer. And the first thing he talks about is how realistically none of them should ever really want Earth because it's kind of boring and there's nothing to it.
Yeah.
But the only reason that they do actually want it is because it's a challenge, basically. So if anyone could actually capture Earth, they would, have bragging rights, basically. So he's talking about his many of his experiences during this, where he used the Cold War to try and take over the world by taking over Russia, by removing their. Well, basically by controlling the weather there, which would have definitely given him a good hope of controlling Russia during the time. But then the Doctor shows up and with Sarah and Harry, and they turn his heat ray on for too long and turn Moscow into a beach. Yeah, it's pretty great. One of the other ones is he goes back in time and purchases legally a couple of lands somewhere in Tokyo and in London, and then it turns out that they actually were ancient burial grounds for things, and all of his great property that he builds there just tumbles, as well as gets reclaimed by also in Manhattan as well. And he gets they get reclaimed in some way or another. So Sarah basically walks in to tell him this as well. It's pretty great. The representation that the imitation he does of Sarah is on point. His imitation of the Fourth Doctor is not so much on point.
Yeah.
But you still get the gist of it though, so it's pretty great.
The good thing is though is that that can work as well because he's taking the mic.
Yeah, he is. So it's pretty great. The greatest story that he does is he uses his time travel machine, TARDIS, to basically turn himself into a a psychic.
Yeah,
fortune teller.
He almost becomes a televangelist with it.
Well, he actually does. He becomes a televangelist in the way that he does all the fortune teller stuff, but because he's actually able to tell the future, he becomes a big deal because no other fortune teller is actually able to tell the future because it's not true. So he does that. He actually can tell the future. So everyone becomes enamored with him. He gets a good publicist is the main thing. And eventually he actually becomes the Prime Minister due to this, because everyone in London, knows that he can actually tell the future. So he, why wouldn't he? He would be the best person to be the Prime Minister, obviously. So he gets elected Prime Minister of the Great Britain, and he does not have a good time with it. Because turns out being the Prime Minister of Great Britain means you're stuck in boring meetings all day and there's nothing really for you there. So he's not having a good time. The Doctor shows up and is basically like, yeah, you're only Prime Minister because I voted for you a bunch, just to see if you could enjoy it. He doesn't. So he decides to just leave, basically, and goes off and ends up with taking away his publicist's wife of the time, and just takes her away as well. It's pretty funny, weirdly enough. And then back at the conference that he's at, he's just about to do his final slide, where it turns out that the Doctor had replaced his final slide to tell him that this company, the Darkon Corporation, was actually purchased outright by the Doctor, stocks on all, and is now a humanitarian-only company.
You've become the biggest philanthropist the universe has ever known.
Yes. It's pretty great. It's just the kind of stuff that the monks had to deal with. It's just it's perfect. And,
they are the worst friends ever, because they were in school together as friends.
Yeah.
And I want to know what happened there. I want to know what happened there way more than I want to know what happened between him and the Master.
I mean, I think the same event really happened for them all, is that they all became renegades, all of them. All of them became renegades. So,
except for Millennium, who got turned into a toy for the Celestial Toy Maker.
Yeah, but it's what I'm saying is they all left Gallifrey. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I want to leave Gallifrey. Do you want to be one of my toys? That's not how I want to. No.
Yeah. So I think that they all decided together, hey, let's leave Gallifrey. The Rani's like, I don't want to actually leave Gallifrey. I'm kind of really smart and I'm kind of doing great here. And then something happens that makes her be like, well, this place is actually really crap. Let's all leave Gallifrey. And that's probably what also causes the Master to go proper off the deep end, real evil. Causes the monk to not really care about anything ever again. But I also kind of feel like the reason why the monk is like this is because the Doctor has actually been bullying him his entire life. And that once the Doctor starts being a good guy, he knows the only way for him to get back at the Doctor is to be a bad guy, but the Doctor continues to bully him, even though he's...
That's so good. I think my favourite troll is when he turned the monk's TARDIS into a police box from the 60s.
Yeah. It's pretty great. That's a good time. So yeah, that was How to Win Planets and Influence People. It was one of the better short trips that we've had recently. It really felt like one, and I like the idea of having a villain just go through his adventure and the Doctor messes with him. I think that's a lot more interesting. It's something that the guest writer did. That we had on before as well, where they talked about it was more from the villain's point of view, dealing with the Doctor.
Yeah.
It's a much better way to well, I guess it's a new experience to have, and I think the audio medium does a better way of doing that. But I guess also a novel would also have a very similar effect. But it was good. Either way, it was good.
I agree. This one, guys, again, you can pick it up from Big Finish, who we're not affiliated with. Gary Russell's still waiting on that email there, brother. If you want to just hit me up, Nick Briggs, a little bit of that Dalek cash money, that'd be great. But I just thoroughly suggest them. Harriet Skelly and I have been having a blast with them. I think they make a very good product that I feel... It's going to sound cheesy, but I honestly enjoy it a bit more than I enjoy you.
Yeah, it's definitely there's definitely good and bad of both worlds, but when it comes down to it, most recently the story quality by itself seems to have been better in Big Finish compared to New Who. Unfortunately, the fact of the matter is that it won't ever really give you the same vibe, because it's not at any time it could become uncanon, depending on the head writer at the time, and also it's it's not visual, and it means you can't really experience it in the same way, which is really sad.
But what is good about it being audio is the budget is your imagination.
Exactly. So it can
There's
be
no shaky sets in your mind.
Yeah, which is also it's also a good and bad thing. It means that sometimes some of the stories we've got there won't ever be able to be put into like a cartoon format.
Yeah, imagine Scherzo. I've been thinking about how to do that. I was thinking, Aha's Take on Me. I was thinking that animation style for Scherzo.
I mean, they did a comic. So the comic that they did for that was just sketches.
Yeah.
And I think like having like a sketched like animation, like where it looks like the sketches are just moving.
Yeah.
Like that could be pretty cool as well.
But I love Scherzo. I think that's so far being my favorite Big Finish adventure.
Fair.
Especially because it's just like, let's have an adventure where we talk about our crap right now.
Yep.
Okay, let's do that. Because like, we're stuck in another universe now, which by the way, I would have been here by myself. I know, but I thought you loved me. Yeah, like a bro. Like a bro. You know how you love your sister and your mum? Yeah, that love. Oh. You're stuck here now.
Well, I hate to tell you, Doctor, but I've got some weird interactions with my sister and mum. don't even go.
Charlie, just shush.
Kind of like Lana's sister. Don't do it.
I want to pretend I didn't hear that and eat this body. Alrighty, guys. Well, that's us for this week. Again, all of this is you can pick up. The comic book is part of the volume The Flood. You can pick it up on Comixology. To be honest, I see it in print in a lot of places. I saw a print of The Flood in a Whitkills.
Yeah, there's even if New Zealand comic stores have it, then American and British comic stores will definitely have it.
How to Win Planets is you can pick that up on the Big Finish app. And they offer it as a cloud service, so you get that on your computer, your tablet, whatever you listen to your podcasts on. Pick it up for this. It will really help in the commute to work if you use public transport. Anyway, guys, we're going to catch you next week.
All right, next week.